episode 263 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and it is Macstock weekend. We've got together with everybody, all of our friends. We were just at the Macstock barbecue. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I get to be here at my lake house with all of my friends and to see Brittany Smith for the very first time in person. How you doing, Brittany?
I am great. It was amazing. We got to have our first hug.
Yes.
It was spectacular.
It was spectacular. I'm so glad you're here. We've got the lake in the background. We're enjoying the weather, sitting outside, so you might hear some stray noise, but that's okay. Jeff Gamet, I'm so glad you're here. I got to see you in person for a long time. We had our big, long hug. How you doing, Jeff?
We did have our big, long hug, and no matter how long we hugged, it didn't get awkward.
No, it didn't. It didn't.
Your beach house? This is beautiful. I love that we're sitting on a lake together recording a show.
Yes, this is awesome. And last but certainly not least, Chuck Joyner's here, and so glad you made it. We saw each other earlier this year at CES, but glad to see you again. How are you doing, Chuck?
Stop bothering me, David. I'm enjoying the weather. It's fantastic here. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
No, it's great to be here. It's great to see you.
Yeah.
And Britt and Jeff and everybody we saw last night at the barbecue. Fantastic time.
Yeah, it was a lot of great times. So, but we're going to do a bit of a show here this week. We got some topics, some news stories that happened, some Apple Maps news, but we'll probably talk a good chunk of the show about the Macstock pre-festivities, because we're not going to be all on stage until the weekend as we record this. So, but let's go ahead and hit some of the stories that caught my eye this week. Threads. Are you all on Threads? Did you make it all on Threads?
Yep.
No.
You didn't make it.
I don't have an Instagram account. That's mine.
Oh,
so
there's that. But the Threads social network did get its first major update. Threads social network was released its significant update this week, introduced a range of new features that improved the functionality of the social network, which we kind of expected. It was basically 1.0. Updating, including a tab for seeing who follows you and who follows you, then you can follow them back, an option to subscribe and unfollow and all that stuff. And there's a whole list of things that they added this week. Jeff, with you being on all the social medias and networks, and especially Mastadon, but how have you been liking Threads, and you think any of these improvements are even noticeable?
Well, just being able to see a list of who's following you, that's a big thing right there, because now it's a lot easier to see who's following you so you can follow people back. It's the overall experience feels nice right now. Maybe that's because of the people that I'm following, but yeah, it's just a nice little chat microblog platform, and yeah, it probably says something that I'm not like fawning over it like it's the most amazing thing ever, but yeah, it's just another social platform.
Yeah, for sure. How about you, Chuck? Has it been anything earth-shattering you like, or have you been using it much?
I've been using it some to promote the show. It's a little bit awkward for me as a potential user, just because I tend to spend more time in front of a laptop screen, and there is no web interface. There's only my phone interface. And so that just lends it for the way I use social media. It not pushes me away, but I just don't. I might check it once a day if I'm, if I'm really into it. But other than that, it's fine. But the more people that get on, the more people that hit the algorithm that they think that I should see, the more junk I get in a feed. So I'm with Jeff. If I can just look at the people I'm following, it feels. I'm sorry, I'm going to get hate mail for this, but it feels a little more like Twitter that I can figure out what I want to see as opposed to what they want me to see.
Yeah. No, it hasn't been. I mean, I've been dabbling into it. It hasn't been too terribly exciting, but probably Brittany, you're probably good that you're not on there. Just it's not something that you haven't been using the Instagram account. And yeah.
No, and I've talked to a lot of people about it, and I have access to Instagram accounts. They just aren't only mine, so I don't feel comfortable making a Threads.
Sure. Well, that's the thing. Once you do a Threads account, you can't get rid of it, and you have to delete your Instagram account, at least for now. I would hope Meta does something about that, because that is kind of...
Yeah, that's kind of a problem.
That's kind of silly. Maybe someone wants to be on one, not the other. So, but I guess now we're at 1.01. I think it's really where we're at now. when it comes to this. So,
So are we allowed to be paranoid here?
of course.
Okay, so if I were paranoid, I would say that that's one more way for Zuck to lock us into his little social media empire and gather more information and to penalize you in some way if you decide to try to get out. That if you're out, you're all the way out.
I don't think you have to be super paranoid, at least on the data collection, because that's happening. There's a reason our friends in the EU can't get on.
Well, that's a good point. That's a real good point.
I have a feeling it's not so much the let's manipulate people in such a way that they feel the pain point for leaving would be too high. I think it's more that they rushed to do a launch because there was a window where it would be optimum for them to release the product, and they hit the window. But I think they made a lot of compromises to get into that window.
So, Jeff, do you think that means that this was not planned? This was more an impulsive kind of thing, taking advantage of the circumstances? Let's just put it out there that surround Twitter at the moment.
Well, to a degree, I mean, clearly they've been working on this for a while, and I think that their plan was to do a launch. They had a launch window selected, and then with some of the things that have been happening with Twitter and the sudden increase in dissatisfaction, they saw this window where they could really leverage that. So they just changed their bar for what their minimum viable product would be, and just sacrificed a bunch of features, and there you go. And I'm waving to everyone on the boats out on the lake.
Water skiing, or they're pulling a well, usually it's on the two.
It looks like a big floaty out there.
I don't know. I've never seen naked water skiing.
They do barefoot skiing.
Well, let's go skiing, Chuck.
You're too anxious, Jeff. You're too anxious.
So, anyway, let's we'll see where it goes. I mean, it's still pretty fresh and new. I found this to be interesting. I didn't even know about this database that's out there. AppleDB. It offers a very useful database of Apple devices, software updates, firmware releases, and more. This was launched back in 2022. It's a very helpful resource that provides a database of Apple devices, software updates, and firmware releases, and more. The website was recently updated with all of the Mac OS releases and beta versions, dating all the way back to Tiger in 2005. I didn't know anything about this database until this story. And I don't know, Chuck, have you seen this database before?
No, this was new to me too. And I believe the one I always use is Every Mac.
Right.
So the fact that this is maintained by Apple, Every Mac does a great job. So I'm not prepared to say I've gone through and studied exactly who gives the best information, but it's another great resource, and you would like to think that it's going to be maintained and updated with a lot of extra useful information that maybe some of the others don't.
Right. Yeah. No, this is great. I mean, we'll talk about iOS 16.6 release candidate came out, but it goes through all of the betas. It gives you new devices, so it gives you the ad inventory, which is awesome. Like the Beat Studio Pro just came out. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's great. What do you think, Jeff? This is a pretty cool database.
Yeah, this is cool. I've been poking around just a little bit right now because this is the most preparation I've done for the show today.
No, but you didn't know about this database, which is
no, I didn't.
I like when I bring up a story.
I've been a long time Mac Tracker user.
Mac Tracker, I use that too.
And that gives you hardware and operating system versions, but I don't think it does any other apps, and it doesn't do firmware. So it's cool to have a resource where I can look up, if I need to, firmware versions too.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that interests you on this stuff?
It's fascinating. It does not appear that it is run by Apple, but it
didn't seem like it.
No, it says at the bottom it's not affiliated, and also it had ads on it. But it's really cool. Looks like a great resource.
Yeah, so we'll have a link in the show notes, so you definitely can check it out. Check it out. Speaking of, we just talked about Beat Studio Pro. They did debut this week with improved sound quality, spatial audio, USB-C, and more. They introduced an updated version of that Studio over-the-ear headphones today. I've got an old pair. that I got, I think, free 1 year when I bought a Mac, so I haven't used them in quite a while. But this is the 4th generation model, and it's dubbed the Beats Studio Pro. It's a $350 headphone. Comes 15 years after Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine debuted the original studio headphones, has their brand name. It's maintained the same look, and they really haven't done a lot of major change to it. Sound quality, they're saying it's about the most of the latest Apple's technology, with adaptive noise cancellation with the ANC, and it does seem to have some good sound quality that a lot of the reviews are saying. This is something you like, Jeff, being the audiophile you are. These are just some new headphones. I don't know. I've never been a big fan of Beats headphones.
I would like to hear them because I haven't listened to Beats in years. The problem that I had with Beats before was that they tend to be very bass heavy. So they sounded kind of muddy and heavy to me. That said, I haven't listened to them in several years, so I'd like to hear these before I decide that I don't like them.
Yeah, definitely. We were talking about this yesterday. You got your new AirPods Pro 2, and these are headphones. Yeah, are you really using headphones anymore, Chuck? Anymore? And you really like?
The only time I use headphones anymore would be the Bose Quiet Comfort for flying. Yeah. And on the way here, I tested out the noise cancellation with the new version of the AirPods. Yeah. And I loved it. I'm just one of those people that can't seem to get a really good seal. I think if I got if I force the seal, the noise cancellation is amazing. So I've got to maybe look at some custom earbuds. But I've kind of gotten away from using headphones for anything. Just don't need them anymore. Yeah. I have a good set of external speakers at home. Sure. And that way, I'm aware of everything's going on around me. And so, these look great. They look very comfortable. But of course, the sound is the big thing. So I'm with Jeff. I'd want to listen to them before I make any judgments.
Hit an Apple store and give them a listen. See, do you use headphones at all, Frick?
Don't usually use over the ear headphones because I have kind of a big head and lots of hair, and it's a whole thing. But I like Chuck cannot seem to get a proper seal on the AirPods Pro, so I wouldn't mind if the noise cancellation is as good as the AirPods Pro 2 and the folding makes them small enough, I might think about it.
I think it's fair to say, for Brittany and I both, we're not criticizing the AirPods. It's just our particular ears, the stock earphone.
They could offer some more tips.
Well, they could offer some more tips, but trying to fit your ears is a pretty specific thing. So, and there's some other companies out there that make some that, you can always get ear molds made and all that. So, I'm thinking more of the technology in the devices that is so good. The fit is another matter.
Yeah. So, we'll check them out. And when any of us get to listen to them, we'll definitely report back and let you know. All right? So, the Apple Card has been pretty active in the news lately with Goldman Sachs considering selling its share of Apple Card. But this story was really interesting. The Apple and Goldman Sachs is crediting some customers who had long waits for savings withdrawal requests. Some customers had a very poor experience with their Apple savings account handled by Goldman Sachs. They're receiving a one-time credit, according to an email that was received. The MacRumors is we're quoting here, and a reader that says that the person made a withdrawal in May. It took well over a month to finally get their withdrawal, which I find that to be absolutely ridiculous. They're giving them a goodwill credit of $100. It's really not clear how many Apple Savings users had received these credits. I didn't do it because I've been smart and not really withdrawn anything. I want to keep it in there and make that 4.15% on the savings account. So, but even the Wall Street Journal had a report that suggests multiple Apple Card customers were having trouble with their accounts. That was handled by Goldman Sachs. So you kind of have to question, where's everything going? I think Goldman Sachs reported again that they're losing money. I'm not going to quote the numbers, but it's pretty big that they want to get out of the consumer business and completely. And that the rumor was American Express may take it over. But then today on the news, they were saying American Express is losing their card usage has dropped. So who knows what's going to happen with that? What do you think, Chuck, on this?
Sitting here on this beautiful lake, for some reason I'm in a paranoid mood today. I feel like there's I don't know where that.
Not where I thought that was going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But what? I guess I feel like there's more to this story. I feel like that somewhere there are regulators that may have put some pressure on Goldman Sachs. I have to wonder if Apple, as a Goldman Sachs partner, said, "Hey, you're failing our customers, and you got to do something."
Yeah.
I mean, $100 is nothing, but it's also not bad. So I want to know what the background is. I want to know why they decided to do this. Other than that, I'm with you, David. We're hearing all kind of reports about how Goldman Sachs is not happy with this arrangement.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll be interesting to see if this just sours that further, or if they just decide to get their act together.
Yeah.
A little bit more.
Sure. What do you think, Flip? Do you don't have an Apple Card, do you?
Oh, yeah.
You do.
Oh, yeah.
Am I crazy? Why would I say that?
I just said I didn't have it with me when we were at the restaurant this morning.
That's another story.
Initially, when they paired with Goldman Sachs, I was like, why are they doing that? And then 2 seconds later, I was like, oh, right, because they have such a bad reputation right now. They will do whatever Apple wants. And it might just be that relationship is feeling less comfortable now. I think it was a reasonable thing to do. And yeah, I would not be surprised even a little bit if Apple was like, oh, no, you cannot do this because our name is on it.
Indeed.
So I don't know even who's providing the money, but you got to do something because that's not okay. I mean, somebody could have been out a lot more than $100 if they needed to access their money quickly. So.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like, T-Mobile Money is another example of the bank that I have that account only because they would give 4% interest if you make purchases throughout the month, and then so that was kind of an incentive. Plus, it was linked to my T-Mobile account and all that. But it takes forever to transfer money into the stupid account, and I'm like, why am I doing this? And then transferring it out isn't so bad, but transferring it in, I'm using it all the time, and it starts dwindling. Like, where is I put this deposit like a week ago? Where is this? So,
Wait, seriously? Like you were waiting a week for a deposit to show?
just about, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. So,
But was that the initial run?
no, it's been recent.
Oh,
I made some deposits, in the last couple of weeks, and it's because I'm just doing a transfer from my primary bank. This is just a secondary bank, that I use. So, it seems slow.
So that's interesting because the Apple Daily Cash that I earn, I watch it go over quick immediately.
Oh yeah, for Apple.
Yeah.
So whose failure is this?
Because the ACH issue with the air clearing,
Right.
excuse me.
Or is it Apple's in some way, or is it Goldman Sachs, or what's going?
And in this case, T-Mobile with their bank, it's Consumers Bank or whatever they call it. But no, whose fault is it? It's Goldman Sachs' fault in this case. So, Chip, do you have any thoughts on that, Chip?
Yes, it's Goldman Sachs' fault.
Yeah, 100%.
And it isn't a situation of there's not enough money to dole out what people were trying to withdraw. I think this was administrative, technical, something like that. And Brittany, I think you were right. Apple said, look, you're making us look bad. You're going to do something about it.
Well, Apple just has one of those names that when you put it next to something negative, the headline's going to skyrocket. And they can't afford it. Apple, Disney has that too. A lot of companies I've followed over the years apparently have that reputation where if anything goes wrong, someone is going to run with it. And you just can't let that stuff go.
They can't. So let's hope this solves it, and who knows where it's going in the future. We'll see what happens when Goldman Sachs gets out of the business whenever they can. This last story, actually, it's it was interesting. I caught my eye. This is a MacRumors. Someone did a review of this Ember Travel Mug 2. We won't get lost with Find My integration. Ember created this device. It's not a device. It's actual travel mug. It's an electronic travel mug that adds that Find My feature. But you're wondering, why would your mug need a Find My? I agree with that. And it's with great explanation. It's a nice to have add-on on a product that's positioned, but it's a small luxury. It's $200 for a travel mug.
Oh,
so
left mugs places. I think this is a great idea.
Yeah, so I just thought, all of us started using one mugs here and there. But go ahead and tell us, Bert.
I lose things all the time. So sometimes when I'm looking at something that is an expensive splurge that I don't really need, which an Ember mug would be one of them if I were looking at it, that could be the difference between me getting it or not, because I walk through this thing of, well, are you just going to lose it anyway? And so, I don't lose my devices very often because they're high priority. But having, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. So is this something you would do, Jeff? I don't think I'd spend $200 on a mug.
If I'm going to spend $200 on a mug, it better have Find My built in. That said, I'm probably not going to spend $200 on a mug.
I mean, this does have heat controls, LEDs at the bottom to let you know if the status of the cup is, the temperature, whether the cup is empty. So it does have some other things other than Find My.
If I were a commuter, this mug would be very appealing.
So it does say you can swipe from your iPhone. You can change the temperature. So it's got some advanced stuff, and you're not just the Find My. I don't think, Chuck, is this other thing you would get, Richard?
No, I wouldn't, because it doesn't fit any use case I have for a mug.
Right.
That said, this feels like it's at the intersection of a lot of really nice features that are expensive but might be worth it for some people, and the idea that not everything in life has to be internet enabled.
This is true.
And so, I don't hate this. It's not for me, but Jeff just made a great point that honestly I hadn't thought about it in those terms. For a commuter, this may be an outstanding thing because they don't want to leave their mug. They want to be able to make sure they know where it is, and also have the information about what's in it and how warm it is and all those things. So, yeah.
Changing the temperature from your phone, to me, this sounds ridiculous, because what I'm picturing is you've got the mug in one hand, your iPhone in the other, and you're sitting here changing the temperature on your phone for the mug. Why don't you just hit the buttons on the mug to change the temperature?
Yeah, exactly. You could do it right from the mug.
What if it's in the other room?
Exactly. Well,
okay, I stand corrected.
That way it can be ready. Well, yeah, to the remote part. That way it can be ready for you to get it when you're ready to leave in the morning.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was interesting that I knew we'd have a bit of a debate on how kind of senseless this thing is.
If I were going to get one, that would be my, okay, I don't have to write this off as a no immediately because I can find it again if I lose it.
This is true. So let's move on to some news. Not news, some topics. Beta, Apple seeded the release candidate of iOS 16.6 and iPad OS 16.6 to developers. I think it came out to the public shortly thereafter. And so we're probably expecting a public launch here probably within the next week. Again, I don't see much of anything that's added to this other than the fact that Apple's taken a long time after iOS 17 came out, which has been, 6 weeks now, I think it is, since WWDC.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in a minute, but this seems interesting that they've taken this long to finally get this to a release candidate on 16.6, and none of us are on it, obviously. So, nothing else we could say about it other than we'll be getting it pretty soon here. Final release. Well, you won't because you're in the beta world.
I'm on the 7. I dropped the 16 beta to move to the 17 beta.
So they also have this for tvOS as well as watchOS 9.6, tvOS 16.6. So, as I mentioned, iOS 17 beta 3, I believe that's what we're on now. Britt, you've been on it, and then you've been having some challenges as we were traveling back here to the lake house. Your battery life has been getting...
Oh, my battery life is awful, but I did just dip below the official service recommendation battery life. Because, my phone is getting close to 2 years old. I know it's ancient.
That's stone knives and bear skins.
I know, right?
The mini's gone, so you got to stay hanging out.
I have to use this one until they'll give me another one. I've had issues with Spotlight. It's really slow, and I don't know if it's just because I have a ton of stuff on my phone, but it'll just sit there thinking forever. Sometimes even searching the app library, it just won't come up with anything. Yeah, it's been hard for a person who likes to launch from Spotlight, but most of the other things are mostly working.
No one else has experience here with iOS 17, so I won't dabble into that too much. There was a couple of things that I found this week interesting. Article talked about how you can get Siri to actually read web articles to you. The way it works is keep in mind, if you want Siri to read web content out loud, you first need to be using Apple Safari when browsing web pages. That makes sense. And as it stands, it won't respond to read requests in third-party browsers, so it depends on if you have Safari. Most of us have Safari as their default on Wi-Fi. And secondly, you have to have the web page you want has to be compatible with reader view. So because it puts it in reader view, so that's what it's doing. It's scanning reader view in here. And there's a number of methods that it shows to actually go through and read this. I don't know if you've tried this, Brittany.
No, I didn't know about it till just now.
There's another thing on your list to do to try this out, because I thought this was an interesting thing. We're always going to be finding some cool things coming with iOS 17 here. So I thought that was interesting. The other one piece I found here too was messages. Have you tried any of the new features in messages? In the messages app?
I don't like them. I wanted to like them, and I don't. My stickers are split between other and stickers labels. You can't delete them without deleting the entire app. So, Taco Bell's on there. I don't need to use stickers from Taco Bell, but I'm not sure if I really want to delete the Taco Bell app or the Alaska Airlines app. And
You must have had a taco.
it was the first beta feedback I sent to Apple was I can't find anything and I can't get rid of stuff.
How about check-in? Have you tried that at all?
No, I have not tried the check-in.
That you have that, and then it's interesting how that works. And then you just talk about stickers. Yeah, I think stickers is a lot. You're a big stickers user. I think a lot of people.
I
happy.
haven't been this summer, and that's really sad.
So, but yeah, I mean, as we go here, we'll be learning more and more about this as it gets to the end of the beta cycle, which we're hoping iOS 17 will probably be out in September timeframe, like it usually is. So, and stuff like definitely going to be interesting to see where this is. So,
Oh, I was just trying to check in.
this is interesting. Try not to cover too many rumors, but sometimes they're intriguing enough. I think they're worth a mention. The current Apple TV, the 4K, was released in November of 2022, so that's just about a little less than a year ago. It's got the A15 Bionic chip, and we've got the large 128 gig storage option, slightly thinner. It's got HDR10 plus supports, a serial mode, and its USB-C port. More pricing, other changes, but they're saying the next gen 4K is expected to be released next year in 2024. Of course, we'd expect a faster chip. Mark Gurman has been throwing out some rumors, of course, but he's usually pretty spot on enough that I merit this a good thing to discuss. So it could be a 16 Bionic, or it could be the upcoming A17 Bionic, which would be interesting to see them put a faster chip like that in the Apple TV. I think Apple is starting to really see that this is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. I just cut the cord from Comcast, moved over to YouTube TV, and I think using the Apple TV is the thing. So I think all of us agree that it's got the best interface to work with. So I think Apple's really seeing that it's something that's something good.
I just got my first Apple TV, but it's at the location I'm not at most of the time.
So you don't get to use it very much.
Yeah, but it was better than I expected. At first, the remote control felt really backwards to me because you do the opposite gesture as you do on your phone, and it was anyway. But yeah, it's been fine. Except when it logs me out.
Fast chat.
Mark Gurman saying this stuff, I'm inclined to believe it. Ming Chi Kuo saying this stuff, I'm inclined to think he's pulling it out of his butt.
At least so you get closer to production.
Yeah, right.
That's why I didn't quote him on the part of the article.
Good call. Yeah. I think we're due for an Apple TV refresh, and I like the idea of an even more modern processor being in the device, and I think that would actually be a good thing beyond just the, hey, my Apple TV runs more efficient, uses less power, it doesn't run as hot, but it's for gamers too.
Right.
Like if Apple really wants to keep pursuing Apple TV as sort of a gaming console, put a beefier A series processor or an M series processor into this.
Doing it on iPhone, they're not on iPhones, they're doing it on iPads, so why not Apple TV? Any thoughts, Jeff, Chuck, on Apple TV?
Yeah, just that I don't think that you can that your TV interface can be fast enough, because I have now a couple TVs that are getting long in the tooth by electronic standards, and I'm noticing more and more how it's like, okay, I push a button and I feel like I have to wait. And I'll put that out there right away.
No, that's a legit thing. You shouldn't have to click a button on your TV and then wait for something to happen.
No.
That's not how a TV user interface experience
remote
works.
controls have ever worked. It's not okay now.
All the time.
Right, but now it happens all the time because we now have television operating systems. And that's why I think the better chip they can put in and the more they can tap the power of that chip to increase speed and improve the user experience, man, I'm all for it. I know it seems like a big waste to put one of the Bionics.
No, they're making tons of them. Whatever, throw one in.
Well, but it also means that there's less inventory, less different inventory that they have to manage.
Yeah, but if it's an iPhone one, like they're only short for like 2 months. So have it come out in December. It'll be fine.
Yeah, but I think this, again, Apple has to code it to take advantage of that.
Yes.
But it seems like they've gotten really good at some of that with what we see happening with the M1s. And the same thing is probably happening with the Bionics. We just may not always see that same performance kick because we're not using the right applications to see it.
Right. That's the big thing with applications on the Apple TV. They've got to get better, and that's been the challenge. There's a lot of them not doing so well. So, other topic I want to talk about a little bit is this is an interesting article from Apple Insider. After 11 years of work, people are actually liking Apple Maps. It's surprising after all these years, right? It just noticed that people do actually like Apple Maps, and a change that only took 11 years to be acknowledged. Apple has said that it could be characterized as a terrible start. If we remember correctly, back in 2012, it was a mess. Apple had the press releases saying, we messed up. We got to get this fixed. But I know a lot of people. My wife, she just walked out. I'll go. She always seems to always gravitate to Google Maps. I says, honey, I can't do it on the screen when I have Apple Maps are ready to go. So I'm so used to using them, but I think it's something that they've done a much better job with it. I mean, they've been doing a lot of upgrades and iterations. I think that has made a difference. And I think you guys talked about this earlier this week on Mac Voices Live. So I wasn't there, unfortunately, because I was away. But what was the consensus of Apple Maps? I think I like it. I use it. I assume you do.
I do, except that, and I said this on the other show, that I prefer Waze for driving, not for the map part, but for the real-time interaction with other drivers.
Okay.
So 2 miles ahead, a cop pulls over and sets up radar. Yeah. There's a fairly good chance that I'm going to have notification of that from other Waze users that are just ahead of me.
Right.
That Apple Maps doesn't have that. On the other hand, I'm broadcasting where I am every second of that trip to Google, and so I'm not sticking my head in the sand. I'm making an informed decision that not getting that ticket is probably worth it a little more to me.
Apple Maps does have a similar feature. It's just not as accurate. Like it doesn't get updated as much.
Right, because you don't have real-time user feedback.
I just had one where it said, has this been cleared? I replied before I saw that it had not been cleared, that it had been cleared. So I didn't give it very good information. But I only did it then because there was somebody else in the car to hit the button for me.
But was that a construction situation?
Car by the side of the road.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're starting to, but it's very in its infancy, whereas Waze has had it forever.
Right. And so you have the issue of all those people using Waze putting all that information into it, as opposed to, having to train Apple Maps users to turn on Apple Maps and B, report the things that are on the road. So,
and I don't know how you report it, honestly, because I didn't see an option for that. It just said, can you verify?
yeah, well, that's something I was going to go and look. I thought maybe I'd miss it that they put it in, but
I don't know where they get the initial report.
yes, I mean, but the overall experience is great. If I need walking directions somewhere, it's Apple Maps every time,
Right.
without question.
Right. I agree. Hey, Jeff, you've been waiting. You got to tell us your opinion.
No, I'm just enjoying looking back and forth at whoever's speaking, and
Something we're not used to. We're
Strange.
right. Now, I prefer Apple Maps in general, and I think the driving directions are far superior to Google Maps. The downside to Apple Maps is that it's not as obvious to business owners how and why to get their businesses into Apple Maps. So if you need to search for a business, search for it in Google Maps, and then put the location into Apple Maps so you can get there more efficiently. Which is kind of stupid, but that's my travel workflow.
I prefer it. I prefer Apple Maps. I try to use it as much as I can. Once I go into Google Maps, I'm like, this doesn't.
I don't like the Google Maps interface.
It's not that great.
But like Jeff, I use it to look places up because it's way more likely. Because I've also had Apple Maps in the last year and a half take me to a place that wasn't open anymore. And in the last year and a half, I've had it give me completely wrong directions to some other place that wasn't where I was going, and had to call the appointment. I was like, I'm here, but I can't find it. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're like a mile away.
But haven't you seen that with normal Google searches, as far as businesses being closed, that things haven't been updated? Because I assume they're pulling from the same database.
No,
They are not.
Apple and Google are not pulling from the same
No,
database.
sorry, I meant Google searches as opposed to Google. That I think they're pulling to the same database. And so if it's not listed as closed or whatever, then you're going to get bad data wherever you go.
Yeah, I just haven't noticed an improvement yet in searching for an Apple one and getting accurate data. It still seems to be a little bit more accurate on Google. And, there's more people using Google.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. It was interesting article. Interesting to see where things are going. I can't believe it. It's been 11 years. It seems like yesterday we're reading that news release. Hope so. We messed up. Last topic here before we get to talk a little more fun things. And this is always fun, but Macstock did festivities here. Is when is the best time to buy an iPhone? Probably not right now. We're actually in July as we're recording this, and who is in the market or is not in the market? I had a family member that had to get a new iPhone, and I suggest to her that she's on the SE second gen. It was it's getting tough to work with. The battery life was diminishing, even though the battery is it was just a solder 70%, like Britt's phone. So I finally said, let's get the iPhone 14. You'd be so much happier. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger, but in this case, I thought this was a good thing, and she's very happy with it, and even got it in yellow. So I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I think right now we're kind of right on the cusp of deciding where is the best, when is the best time to buy the iPhone, and probably I would say not right now at this point, because September, October generally is going to be when that's going to get released. So what do you think, Mr. Jeff, on this?
If you have the luxury of buying an iPhone whenever you please, wait until fall after the new phone's announced so you can buy whatever the latest and greatest model is. Yes,
Chuck does too.
yeah. If you're not in that position, my advice is you buy a new iPhone when you need to have a new iPhone. And your personal cycle may not be in sync with Apple's product release cycle. That's okay. So yeah, to me, there are two types of iPhone buyers. You need to buy it now, or you have the luxury of buying whenever the new thing comes out.
Sometimes you just have to nurse it along until Apple releases another one that actually fits in your hand.
Right. Yeah. There's that too. There are three types of and a maniacal devotion to the Pope.
So
Maniacal devotion to the Mini, but
To the Mini, yes.
We're kind of not in the majority. Fuck and I, because we always upgrade every year because we have to. It's just in our blood at this point. Got to have it, right?
Well, you and I are on the automatic upgrade program, so it doesn't make a lot of sense for us unless we were, in the very unlikely event, we were deciding to avoid and leave the iPhone platform.
Right.
So that, it sort of goes without saying. But, I would submit that I want to echo everything Jeff said, with the possible exception of don't do without an iPhone for all the reasons that we can list about the benefits of the iPhone. If you need to buy a refurbished one to get you through and then resell it, if you need to buy a new one and maybe a lower model, maybe you don't need as much RAM, or you can stand to do something smaller, Brittany.
or want to do something smaller.
Want to do something smaller, but keep the iPhone with you, because it is truly you use it more than you realize. You use its features more than you realize, and you depend on it more than you realize. So, because I've heard people say, well, just buy a burner phone and tide you over for a couple months. And that's a terrible solution.
A lot of things can be fixed too. Like if your phone's running slow and your battery's too low, it might just be the battery.
Good point.
Yeah.
So you on the 12, the Mini, or the 13?
I have both, but I'm on the 13. You hear that, Apple? I will buy every single Mini that you put out when you first release it.
I don't think the Mini's going to be coming out anytime soon. Sad.
There are no rumors to support that.
So that's our recommendation. I thought that was a good refresher, because we get that question all the time this time of year. Should I wait? Should I not? A lot of times people are just, if you're really hard up, the phone is just in that bad a shape. The 14 is still a perfectly good iPhone, and you're going to be very happy.
And the differences in processor aren't that big anymore.
The 12 is still a perfectly good iPhone. The iPhone 11 is still perfectly good.
Right now, my 12 is faster than my 13 because my 13 needs its battery replaced.
My wife got the 13. My mother-in-law's got the 11. So, and we got others as the 12 Pro Max and the 13 Pro Max. They're perfectly fine. So there's no real reason that you have to upgrade it, as it works perfectly.
So right now the 8 is the cutoff for
8. The 8 is the end of the road. The 8 and the 10. Anything higher than the 10 is still will be on iOS 17.
Right. Okay.
So the 10R and higher.
Yeah. So if you really need to buy an iPhone right now, and I'm the scenario I'm drawing up is something happened to your phone, you dropped it over the side of the boat here on the lake, and you need it. That's one more way to afford one, and to tide you over, and then decide if you want to try to tough it out for yet another year for another release, or just go ahead and get it.
So just that's our recommendations, and we'll always be talking about that, because we always get asked that question every time this time of year. So before we wrap up, I just want to end the show with just the fun we had this week. Thursday, as we record this, we all got to see each other. And I said, again, Brittany, it was so great to see you. Got a nice big hug. Tess as well, and Chuck, great to see you as well. And all of our friends that have been at Macstock, the Midwest Mac BBQ. Shout out to Barry Falk for hosting the barbecue.
Amazing.
It was absolutely amazing.
It was.
It was just had so much fun. He had a wine tasting. We had great food, great company with everybody. What are your guys' thoughts? Brittany, I know you had this. It was great to see us and having just a great time.
That was amazing. It was so much fun. They're such gracious hosts. Good food, good friends, good times.
Yeah, it was just absolute great to see everybody. Jeff, I mean, got to see Dave Hamilton. I mentioned him, and John F. Braun and Mike Rose, and just all around. Allison Sheridan, and Steve Sheridan, and I'm probably forgetting people, but
It was like a family reunion, but in a good way.
And that's what Allison said too. We're just like family.
Yeah, and it was just really awesome to get to see all of my friends in one place after, realistically, for a lot of people, after so many years.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, sure. Same sentiments, right, Chuck?
Absolutely. I think I shook 3 hands and received 30 hugs.
30 hugs at least. And I think I did too.
And one disturbing kiss from Allison, which was, that's another
I
discussion.
saw that, yes.
Yeah,
I still have that in my mind, and I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I still got it in my mind too.
Goodness,
I'm testing for COVID as we speak. But it's also important to note, though, that was one subset of the folks we're going to see at the event starting Saturday. That we have a number of friends we know that couldn't make it in or the barbecue because of the day in between, so they're going to be there Saturday, and it's going to start all over.
Yeah, we'll see people we hadn't seen at the barbecue, which is great. So quickly, we'll talk about what we're going to talk about, and then obviously we'll be able to tell everybody. I'll be talking about cloud computing. That's my topic because the topic for Macstock is learn, and I want to teach everybody and have everybody learn what it all is about cloud computing, and that's why I'll leave it at that. Jeff, what was your topic going to be?
High-res audio.
So we're going to be learning a lot more about high-res audio because you're very well-versed in sound. That's going to be great. And Chuck, you get to open up the show. So, it's kind of an honor. You get to open up the show.
Chuck's the keynote. No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I took Mike's theme and spun it a little bit. And I'm going to talk about learning and to live in the future or get stuck in the past.
Okay, great. And we'll be feverishly working on our presentations in here to finish up and tweak things. So, and the brilliant, last but not least, what are you going to talk about?
I'm going to talk about finding ways to work smarter instead of harder, and probably have a little how to do it with automation specifically at the end, since this is just the right audience for it.
Great. So, unfortunately, by the time you hear this, the show will already probably be past, or will be a recording once it gets released.
But you can get the recordings.
Get the recordings, but you still can get the pass. You actually can register after the fact and to get the digital pass, so you can watch all these videos at the end. So still go to Macstock.conferenceandexpo.com to check that out, and definitely we'll be able to have some great stuff that you can see after the fact. I highly recommend that. So I think it's something that's going to be just a great thing, and we're sad that some of you won't be there, but we're going to be able to share it with you anyway, and then you'll get to hear all about it next week. We'll be back on our shows on MacVoice Live as well as here on In Touch with iOS. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap up for this week. We're a little bit early, but why not? We've got to go enjoy this lake that we're looking at right now. So, and that's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @InTouchWithIOS, as well as on Mastodon @InTouchWithIOS. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We'd really appreciate it. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available, and we would really appreciate it. Usually we're live streaming on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios. We won't have a live stream this week, but we had to improvise. We're having some fun, so we didn't do that this week. But you can always see that, and you'll be able to hear the past shows as well as past live streams. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discussed are flipped into that magazine. The link is our show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, which includes Pocket Casts, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, and many others. But better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsberg, and you can find me on Mastodon at DaveG65, as well as Twitter. Brittany Smith, so great to see you in person.
It is so great. Thank you so much for having me, Dave.
Where can people find you?
I have a Mastodon. It's pdx.social, ADD Liberator, something in those orders, some order of that. If you want to reach out there, or a lot of my website stuff can be found on conquer.consulting.
Jeff Gamet, thanks. Oh, great to see you in person. It was such a long time.
Yes.
Great to see you. But where can people find you?
Well, when we're not hanging out in person, you can find me on social media. I'm Jay Gamet on basically everything. I'm most active on Mastodon and Instagram. Then shows. And here's Chuck. So I can ask you to your face, how is it that you keep letting me on Mac Voices Live?
It's just pure entertainment, Jeff. Entertainment.
Okay.
He's worried he wouldn't have an After Dark show without you.
All right, transfer private.
Yeah, it's too bad we didn't record the drive out here.
It seemed pretty quiet to me.
What was your title? After Dark on the Road?
Yeah, After Dark, Unleashed. Okay, other shows. Dave, it's so great to be doing In Touch with iOS live, so thank you for letting me on your show all the time. Then, Thursdays, the British Tech Network, the Big Show, then Fridays on the Mac Show, and then also the Context Machine with Brand Chaffin.
Awesome. Last but certainly not least, Chuck Joyner, thanks for being here, and it's great to see you in person as well.
It is, David. It is. Our gap wasn't quite as long because we saw each other at CES, but that doesn't take anything away from it. And this is only the second time I've seen Brittany in person, and Jeff and I haven't seen each other for years, so this is just an extra special week to us. You can find everything I'm doing at macvoices.com, as you both alluded to, all three of you, I think. Mac Voices Live, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. On YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. And if you can't make that, don't worry. All the craziness ends up in the feeds sooner or later. And on pretty much all the threads, all the socials, including Mastadon, including T2, and now Blue Sky. I got Blue Sky. I'm at Chuck Joyner.
Great. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. We enjoyed doing it because we got to enjoy this beautiful weather and be by a lake. So, and for that, thanks again, and we'll talk to you again next time.